When I think about the Sabres in the playoffs coming up next week, my mind goes back to Super Bowl 34, which you're saying Super Bowl 34, 2000? I mean, have your 20s caught up to you? Are you purely decompensating right now psychologically? No, not yet. That's to come. But in Super Bowl 24, when the Tennessee Titans took on the St. Louis Rams, they had a rookie, the Titans did, named Javon Curse, the Freak. And those of you watching football then remember him because he was a freak. He had size, speed, and lightning fast as a pass rusher. The Titans depended on him all season long. At halftime, the Rams were up 16 to nothing, and Curse did not have a very good first half. It was obviously mental. And his teammates, the veterans, came over to him and said, "Look, I know you're a rookie. I get this is the biggest stage, but we need you. You've been here all year long. We can't win without you." And Curse had a phenomenal second half. And in fact, he was about an eighth of a second away from affecting Kurt Warner's rainbow pass to Torrey Holt that put the Rams up 23-17, 23-16, I'm sorry. And after the Titans came back and tied it, and the Rams wound up winning by a yard when Kevin Dyson was tackled at the 1 yard line by Mike Jones, the linebacker for the Rams, as time expired. But the lesson was, I don't care how big the stage is, we can't do this without you. So I'm just going to talk briefly today about Sabres playoff performers and who I'm not worried about and who I have concerns about. Um, the playoff experience on the Sabres, there is some. Uh, Alex Tuck has played 66 games. You know, he's got 33 points for that effort. Jason Zucker's got 52. Bowen Byram plays 27. He was instrumental in that 2022 run to the Stanley Cup when Nathan McKinnon finally got his cup when they beat Tampa Bay in 6 games. And it's smattered around the lineup. There are some guys, Tanner Pearson has some experience, and Luke Shen, obviously, being in the league this long. But as the core, there's a lot of key players that have not had any experience and don't know that this is next level hockey. They can intellectualize it, but that's great in theory until you actually play. Um, Lindy doesn't have the traditional shutdown checking line that he has had in the past. There's no Pekka Ward or Verada. There's no in '07 the Ducks had Sammy Polson, Travis Moen, and Rob Niedermeyer, who did a phenomenal job on the Alfredson line with the Senators in the '07 Stanley Cup final. There's no real matchup line to have here. Uh, but when you bring up a line that potentially could do it, and it could be Zach Benson, Josh Norris, and Josh Doan. I saw a stat today. They played 69 minutes together, a 5-on-5, and they've outscored their opponents 6-2. So with that defensive back checking that can quickly turn into lightning fast offense, that line can come at you in waves. And there's that entire line of Benson, Doan, and Norris. Two of them fall into the category I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about Zach Benson. I'm not worried about Josh Doan. I'm not worried about Peyton Krebs, Alex Zucker, Malenstein, Darlene Samuelson, and Byron. Reasons why I'm not worried about those guys is the fact that they play the kind of game that translates well into the playoffs. They really do. And in the playoffs now, it's all short area. The decision has to be made quicker than it normally would. The physicality is incredible, and you can't panic in your own end. I'm not worried about, even though Benson and Doan have zero playoff experience, and the same with Darlene and Samuelson. I am not worried about them. Their mental makeup, to me, exhibits an easy transition into the playoffs, if there is anything as an easy transition to playoff hockey, if you've never played it before. But they're short area games, and the decision making of those players I'm not worried at all. I mean, Benson is a complete pest. Krebs writes the book on pests now. He reminds me of um, a bit of a Donald Audette. Now, obviously, not with a scoring touch Audette did, but these are guys that are going to go into those areas that are going to be painful. Going towards 12 feet to the net in that area and that square uh, you're gonna get hacked, you're gonna get whacked, you're gonna get cross-checked, you're gonna get elbowed. Your ribs, your head, everything is fair game, and it's gonna be the other way for the Sabres opponent, whoever they do play. Guys, I am have concerns about, and obviously it starts at the top with Owen Power. I say, I've said this a couple times on the show. To me, he's a liability from 8 feet in. Outside of that, with the puck moving forward, he's dynamic. There's a reason why he's not sitting, because of so much upside he brings in the transition game and offensively. But I'm really curious to see how he responds to the playoff environment and the playoff energy, because maybe, just maybe, um, this kind of overall experience and the intensity will reach in and give his brain like a quarter turn and have it click in, and he will be a playoff juggernaut back on the defensive line. But that remains to be seen. Josh Norris, I'm concerned about as well. He disappears for a long stretches. Now, with this line now, he has reawoken here. Will that continue in the postseason? Because he's been a target. The Islanders targeted him, Tampa Bay targeted him, and sometimes he loses his cool. And, power plays, you hold them like gold. They're at a premium in the playoffs. So he needs to keep focused and keep playing the way he is once the playoffs hit next Saturday. Excuse me. Um, Tage Thompson. Now, why would you be concerned about him? Well, I am concerned a little bit about him. His -8 is not the greatest number for a guy who's got 79 points. Let's put it that way. Thompson is going to be, if Norris is a target as a bullseye on him, Thompson's got the size of a billboard target on him, because as Thompson goes, so goes the Sabres offense, and the opposition teams know that. So, and he's never played in this. Now, you can say he's played in the Olympics and he's played in the around the four nations, put it that way. Um, so he's played in big games before, yes, but does he have the grind in him for what is going to turn into the opening round 6, 7 game series, whatever, and beyond that? Jack Quinn is another one. Over 20 goals this season. He has really found his groove, and his stroke as far as shooting the puck. The biggest thing is his shot selection and accuracy, and passing the puck off. But Quinn has seemed to have bore down on this in the second half of the season and has played really well, and probably as good as pretty much any Sabre in the last month. But how will his game respond? Sometimes Quinn can go into a shell, and sometimes he panics with the puck. We'll see how he responds. Zach Metz is another one. First of all, is he going to be the 5? And who is going to be a 6? Um, and will they be able to handle the forecheck? That's why I'm not worried about Dahlin or Samuelson. I think a thunderous forecheck they can handle. Sometimes Samuelson can give the puck up, as we saw in the Ranger game. But I think overall, mentally, they can handle that. Power, I'm not sure about. Byram, I am sure about. But the third pairing is what I've talked about earlier on the show. Whatever conclusion Lindy Ruff comes up with here, as they have Chicago tomorrow night to finish off against Dallas on Wednesday, he's going to have 2 to 3 days to figure out, all right, I've seen the auditions, who gets the role? And whoever does get the role, that's who I'm concerned about, how they can mentally adjust to the playoff atmosphere. UPL is another one. Now, he's played, brilliantly at stretches, but uh, this is his first taste too. And boy, you think there's pressure on the forwards, and the defense. The goaltenders get a lot of it as well. He's going to have to be as sharp as he's been all season, and even sharper in a series where 1-goal games will probably be the norm rather than the exception. X factors here. I'm going to throw Thompson in the X factor pile, because if he can play to his potential in this, he has that kind of series changing talent. He could go through 6 games with 8 points and have the game winning goal in 2 of these games. He's an X factor that was not even thought of until late last week. Is Colton Ellis with Alex Lyon on the shelf into the playoffs? When does Lindy, after a bad game by UPL, turn to him? And we've seen hot goaltenders. Anyone can look at 86 with Patrick Waugh coming in and getting hot and carrying their teams to deep into the playoffs. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but Colton Ellis is an interesting X factor to have. And I would say Noah Ostlund, who Lindy made finally some progress here and some positivity so they could be ready for the playoffs. Does he slot back in the Benson role with Doan and Norris when that line is going so well? Probably not. He's probably going to be on a fourth line with Beck Mallenstein. Mallenstein. Mallenstein is another one I'm not worried about. So keep that in mind as we get here, as they have the Blackhawks in the Chi-Town tomorrow, and then home to wrap it up against Dallas of all teams, who are, preparing for their first round series against the Minnesota Wild. That's obviously going to happen. These are players I'm wondering that can transition over from a great regular season and have that playoff mode. We've seen young teams before fold and be gone in 5 games, and everyone's cleaning out their locker 2 days after, wondering what the fuck happened. Playoff hockey brings out the best in teams. It brings out the best in players. It also brings out the worst in players. Who can handle the pressure? It's a good problem to have and a good issue to discuss as this club gets ready to finish the regular season and have a little bit more clarity as to who they face and when.